MMA, mixed martial arts. This sport has grown so much since the beginning of it.
Kick to the back, right on the... Going right.
Very calm and collected here. But she's in trouble, Mike. And she needs a knee.
And it is no longer about who is the toughest person inside the cage. Granted, being tough does play a huge role in it. When MMA first started, it was all about who had the best combat art. So you had people from each individual combat art or martial art competing against each other, whether it was boxing, wrestling, taekwondo, karate. You had all these people that were practitioners of just one art competing to show whose art and to test and see whose art was the strongest. So you would have boxers versus wrestlers, wrestlers versus kickboxers, kickboxers versus boxers, taekwondo guys versus karate guys, all competing in the same tournament to see who had the strongest martial art. And at the time, jiu-jitsu proved to be the strongest in the original UFC. Since then, though, the sport has evolved immensely, and you can no longer just have success off being good at one art. Now, all of these steps are equally as important, so stick around for all of them and find out what makes a great fighter today. Number 1, find your base. What I mean by base is your primary martial art, the martial art you decide to train first. For Khabib, it was Sambo. For Sugar Sean O'Malley, it was kickboxing. For John Jones, it was wrestling. For Alexander Volkanovski, it was rugby. Okay, there are some anomalies, but you get the point. Even Volkanovski had to start somewhere. So it's up to you to find a martial art that you connect with and that you love, so that it's easy to get into the gym, to train it, to practice it, and build your skills in that particular martial art. Whether it's wrestling, jiu-jitsu, boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, taekwondo, karate, all of these sports are growing and they're easy to find and easy to practice. So first things first, find your base, train it, and stick to it and get good at it and comfortable with it. Number 2 is proficiency in your base. You are going to need to practice it a lot, and I mean a lot. For example, if you choose kickboxing as your first martial art, which is a striking base, then you need to make sure that you're practicing enough to be as good or better than other strikers that plan on competing in MMA as well. And that applies to any martial art that you decide to choose as your base. So now that you've found your base, it'll probably be what you choose to go to every time you enter the cage. In that case, you need to be confident enough to compete with other people that have the same base. With that being said, though, this is MMA and there are so many paths to victory, which leads me to my third point, which is build fundamentals in other arts. So you've already chose your base and you're starting to build strength and confidence in it, which means it's now time to start practicing other arts and building strong fundamentals in those arts that are going to complement our base. If your primary martial arts is wrestling, then it's time to start working on your striking, learning how to box, learning how to kick. If you started with a striking base, now it's time to start learning the wrestling, the jiu-jitsu, the fundamentals of each, the wrestling defense, the jiu-jitsu defense, the submission defense, the offense, to all of those. And I will just say this right now, if you don't have the fundamentals in the opposing martial arts, you will get beat. Whether it's someone striking you for 3 rounds or grappling you for 3 rounds. Work the other martial arts so you have enough confidence to keep yourself safe and allow yourself to get to where you're best, to where you're strongest. Number 4, divide your martial arts correctly. Now, like I said in the beginning, MMA has so many routes to victory, but there's only so much time and so many things we can practice within a day. So it's very important to find the martial arts that complement your base, your primary martial arts, and work them consistently. The thing about MMA is you can't train your karate one day and then you're boxing the next day and then you're wrestling and then you're jiu-jitsu and then you're kickboxing the following day and expect to do that consistently through a training camp and be successful. If you divide your time too much between all these different martial arts, you're gonna have less success because you're giving yourself less time to focus on your primary martial art as well as the complementing martial arts. Let's take Sugar Sean O'Malley, for example. There is probably rarely times in a training camp when he's booked to fight someone that he isn't practicing his striking. For myself personally, there's never a single day in my fight camp where I'm not working my grappling. It's up to you to find the martial arts that work for you and work well together and divide the practice between each of them correctly. And that brings me to my fifth and final point, which is build your style. Now that you found your primary martial arts and your complementing martial arts, and you found a schedule that works for you to train them all consistently, it's now time for you to build your style specifically for MMA. The reason I say this is MMA is so unique. You are going to have to adapt all your martial arts. Any martial art changes when it's in the cage, whether it's kickboxing, karate, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, grappling. All these things are going to look different in the gym versus in the cage. So you have to adapt your style in those arts to complement MMA specifically. You're not going to wrestle in an MMA fight the same way you would wrestle in a folk style wrestling match, and you're not going to take up a traditional boxing stance in an MMA fight. There's always things that you're gonna have to change a little bit with each martial art. So building a style that complements MMA and all the things that you might run into while fighting in the cage. And the last little thing to that for the building blocks of a successful MMA fighter is adaptability. All combat sports where you're competing against another person, expect to run into problems, expect it, and learn to adjust to them. When you practice, put yourself in bad positions that you might have to see in the cage. If you're never putting yourself there, it's going to be something that's new and flustering to you when you actually get there or when someone actually puts you there. For example, if you're in the cage and boxing is your primary martial art and that's not giving you success, but you're finding that you're having success with your kicks, then maybe it's time to change up the style and start kicking more, kicking to the legs, kicking to the body, mixing them up with the ranges high and low so that you're having more success in that fight. Giving different variables for your opponent to think about is always gonna help. If you're a wrestler and your takedowns aren't working, but you're getting to the clinch consistently and you're working well from there, well, then that's the adaptability. We start getting to the clinch more. We don't have to take them down and put them down. If we work well in the clinch and we're having success from there and we're winning the fight from there, then we switch up the game plan and go from there, attack that so that you can come out with the win. In any combat sport, and specifically MMA, be adaptable, be intelligent, and you will be successful. That's all I have for y'all today. I appreciate you watching. If you stuck around to the end of the video, thank you so much. Make sure to click the thumbs up button, give me a subscribe, and click the bell if you want notifications when I come out with more videos like this.